Look around you. The average man isn't falling in war. He's scrolling TikTok, watching others live while his own life fades into background noise. No explosion, no grand failure, just slow erosion, masked by comfort, porn, and junk foods. This isn't the masculine spirit dying in battle. It's rotting in silence. He doesn't fight for meaning. He runs from it, into distractions, into digital fantasies, into the false safety of routine. He was never conquered. He simply stopped showing up. Walk through any modern city, and you'll see it men with dead eyes hunched over screens chasing likes instead of legacy. They don't chase purpose. They chase dopamine. And in that growing emptiness, the world shifts. Women step in. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. This isn't progress. It's substitution. Nature doesn't care about your comfort. It fills vacuums. So when masculine will disappears, feminine action takes over. Not as rebellion, but as correction. This isn't a war of the sexes. This is a retreat from existence itself. Schopenhauer taught that existence is driven by the will, the raw urge to strive to suffer, to overcome. But today's man numbs that will. One click at a time. He calls it peace, but it's sedation. He calls it equality, but it's absence. Ask yourself honestly, when's the last time you did something difficult because it mattered? Most won't answer, because most don't even ask the question anymore. And so the collapse continues, not with a bang, but with a notification. He didn't fall. He faded. Man in his weakness seeks a villain. He cannot bear the mirror, so he blames the world. He stumbles through life with a hollow chest and wandering eyes, and when he feels his own impotence, he points outward to the woman, to society to change itself. He says she emasculated him, that she took too much, asked for too much, rose too high. But truth is simpler. She merely filled the void he abandoned. This is projection in its purest form. The fragile man hurls his shame at the nearest target. He cannot master himself, so he condemns others. He cannot admit it is not she who broke him. It is he who refused to become whole. And thus begins the spiral. The more he blames, the more he shrinks. The more he shrinks, the more she must carry. The more she carries, the more he resents her. It is a cycle of decline, not driven by feminism, but by failed masculinity. Schopenhauer warned us the will does not want peace, it wants struggle. And when a man abandons struggle, he decays. His soul atrophies. He becomes a shadow of himself, wrapped in envy, sinking into bitterness. Women are not the cause of male suffering. They are the consequence of male retreat. Until man owns his failure, he will remain a prisoner of his own blame, howling at ghosts, while his spirit withers in silence. The enemy was never outside. It was always within. Once, man viewed woman as a thing, not a person, an object of beauty, a fleeting thrill, a canvas onto which he projected his hunger and lust. He did not love her. He used her. Her value was her appearance, her role to reflect his fantasies. But man in his arrogance forgot the law of nature. Everything turns. Everything reverses. And so woman learned. She studied her objectification like a language. She mastered the male gaze, sharpened it into a weapon, and turned it back against him. He, the predator, became prey to his own instincts. She, once the watched, became the watcher who chooses when and where to be seen. Now it is man who chases shadows, pornography-filtered illusions, digital sirens. He's lost in pursuit of a mirror image, one he designed but can never possess. He reduced her to flesh, and now she reduces him to impulse. What began as domination ends in dependence. Do not misunderstand, this is not female victory. It is mutual degradation, the triumph of appearances over essence, of fantasy over connection. Schopenhauer saw it clearly. Sex is the trick nature plays to keep the species alive. And both man and woman are puppets, dancing, deceiving, decaying. In the end, man built a world that worships beauty. And now he kneels before it, powerless, pathetic, and alone. He looks like a man. He walks like a man. But inside he remains a boy. Not because of age, but because he has never severed the invisible umbilical cord that binds him to comfort, to safety, to the maternal womb of emotional dependency. He has not chosen his path. He waits to be led. He has not shaped his world. He hopes someone else will do it for him. Schopenhauer understood this weakness, the refusal to confront suffering, the avoidance of responsibility. It is not innocence, it is cowardice. This is not growth. This is regression. He clings to comfort because he fears the brutal freedom of the will. He hides from life's pain beneath the skirts of modern pleasures, temporary highs that mimic the mother's embrace but offer no true meaning. He avoids commitment, not out of rebellion, but because it demands too much. He resents duty, not because it's unjust, but because it forces him to mature. And so, once again, woman must step in. Not as lover, but as caretaker. Not as partner, but as surrogate. She becomes the adult he refused to become. This isn't equality. This is imbalance born of emotional cowardice. He says he fears failure. But what he truly fears is reality itself. The rawness, the weight, the work. He may grow old, but he never becomes a man. Until he kills the boy within consciously, painfully, and completely, he will wander through life as a ghost, seeking motherly comfort in every woman he meets, and wondering why none of them stay. Modern man is a slave-willing, smiling, and addicted. He wastes his life force like a fool, squandering gold, spilling his essence daily, for nothing more than fleeting pleasure. No purpose, no aim, just compulsion. Schopenhauer called it what it is, the blind will to life. Sex is nature's cruelest trick, an illusion of joy, masking the machinery of reproduction. A trap designed not for fulfillment, but for continuation. But man does not see the trap. He sees only the bait. And so he chases orgasm after orgasm, not realizing that with each release, something deeper dies. What was once his drive to build, to conquer, to create dissolves. Passion becomes passivity. Fire becomes fog. This isn't about morality, it's about energy. The ancients knew this. Warriors, sages, artists, they guarded their essence. They understood that discipline was power, and that lust ungoverned leads only to emptiness. But today, man is taught to indulge, to spill constantly, to celebrate his descent. He confuses liberation with decay. He thinks he's free, but he's bound by dopamine, by screens, by cravings. And with every indulgence, his will, the very thing that defines him, grows weaker, until he becomes a shell with no ambition, no edge, no presence. He's not a man. He's a reaction. This is the price of dissipation. Not guilt, but erosion. Not shame, but silence. He does not even realize he is dying because pleasure is too loud and truth is too quiet. When reality wounds the weak, do not fight. They flee. And nowhere is this more evident than in the modern male's descent into virtual escapism. Porn, video games, social media, filters of life, rehearsals for nothing. He builds empires in pixels, conquers women on screens, levels up in games, but not in life. This is not masculinity. This is mimicry. Schopenhauer warned that human existence is a theater of suffering, and only the strong endure it head-on. But the modern man cannot bear it, so he crafts a substitute world where consequence doesn't exist and achievement is manufactured. He doesn't chase power, he simulates it. He doesn't seduce women, he clicks on them. These digital triumphs are not victories, they are anesthesia. They numb the will, pacify the pain, and seduce him into stagnation. He celebrates high scores, but avoids real failure. He earns followers, but fears authentic judgment. He feels accomplished, but he's untouched by life's sharp edges. Meanwhile, reality demands builders, leaders, protectors. And so women again carry what he drops. He becomes passive while they act. He escapes while they engage. And in this quiet exchange, his essence fades further. This is not evolution. This is erosion disguised as progress. Masculinity is forged through friction, through resistance. But he resists nothing. He chooses ease. And so his life becomes a loop, a dopamine loop of false rewards and real decay. He escapes into fantasy because the truth terrifies him. He has become irrelevant. The modern man has banished a part of himself. Not a limb, but a soul, his inner feminine, his anima. He mocks it, suppresses it, denies it. He believes that strength lies only in hardness, in logic, in detachment. He fears vulnerability. He scorns emotion. He exiles intuition. But Schopenhauer understood. To be human is to suffer, and to suffer consciously demands depth. And depth is impossible when half of the self is disowned. This disconnection is not power. It is mutilation. The man who rejects his anima becomes emotionally crippled. He cannot love. He cannot feel deeply. He leads with force, not presence. He speaks, but never connects. Meanwhile, woman evolves. She integrates both energies, feminine intuition and masculine drive. She becomes whole while he fractures further. And so the paradox emerges. She becomes more complete. He becomes more divided. The modern man remains an emotional amputee, lost in the world he refuses to explore within himself. He avoids his darkness and therefore cannot bear his light. He fears his own softness, mistaking it for weakness. But in doing so, he forfeits balance, presence, wisdom. And in every failed relationship, every numb stare, every outburst of rage, his shadow speaks. You are only half alive. Masculine weakness is not the absence of strength, it is the absence of integration. Until he turns inward, faces the mirror, and welcomes the feminine, not as threat, but as truth, he will remain a stranger to himself. And no woman can save a man who has abandoned his soul. This is not revolution, it is correction. What we see rising is not woman, but the consequences of man's disappearance. Schopenhauer taught that nature is blind, will a force that balances itself with no care for morality or fairness. When one side weakens, the other expands. Not from justice, but from survival. Women are not taking power, they are filling absence. What was once led by masculine presence has been left vacant by distraction, by cowardice, by the rot of convenience. So she adapts, she builds, she leads. Not from hunger for dominance, but from necessity. Because someone must. Do not call this progress. Call it compensation. The decline of men is not political. It is psychological, spiritual, existential. He has stopped showing up with clarity, with weight, with purpose. He confuses presence with performance. He acts like a man but lives like a shadow. He asks why women lead. The answer is brutal because he stopped. And yet the solution is not to dominate again. That's the sickness, not the cure. The masculine must return, but not with fists. With focus. With inner strength. with conscious will. He must become full again, not by rejecting the feminine, but by embodying his own essence completely. He must reclaim what he gave away, not by taking from others, but by becoming whole within. Nature isn't at war, it's simply balancing. And if men want to stop falling, they must stop waiting for permission to rise. Man tries to reclaim power by force. Woman rises to meet him in kind. And so the pendulum swings, patriarchy to matriarchy, dominance to resistance. But neither side wins, because the war itself is the illusion. Schopenhauer stripped it bare. Existence is suffering driven by the will to survive, to possess, to control. And yet the only path beyond suffering is detachment from illusion, from ego, from the idea of control itself. In this light, partnership is not equality, it is necessity. Not inversion, integration. Not man above woman or woman above man, but both facing the abyss together whole and unafraid. Modern culture chases power games, men trying to reclaim thrones. They abandoned women climbing ladders they never wanted, each mistaking power for wholeness. But true power comes not from position, but from presence. Man was never meant to dominate woman. He was meant to embody the masculine, fully disciplined, grounded conscious, and she the feminine, intuitive, resilient, connected. Together they are not opposites at war. They are halves of one fractured soul. The future is not ruled. It is harmonized, not by compromise, but by completeness. She is not his rival. She is his mirror, and he hers. Only when both awaken consciously, painfully, completely, can partnership become more than negotiation. It becomes transcendence, not a balance of power, a unity of essence. The world does not improve, it adjusts, not from awakening but from collapse. And yet there remains one final thread of hope, not in society, not in systems, in the individual, in the will. Schopenhauer said it plainly. The only true freedom lies in the refusal to be ruled by blind desire. To choose to truly choose is an act of rebellion against the machinery of instinct and illusion. The man who drifts becomes nothing. The man who chooses, he becomes himself. So what does that choice look like? It is not loud. It is not celebrated. It is made in silence in private war, when a man looks at the mirror and says, enough. Enough escaping. Enough blaming. Enough surrender. He chooses to reclaim his discipline, his focus, his soul, not to impress women, not to defeat them, but because wholeness demands it, because suffering demands it. And she must also choose to lead not from resentment, but from wisdom, to recognize the goal is not to rule him, but to meet him whole and awake. This is not a call to arms. This is a call to consciousness. A man must rise, not as conqueror, but as creator of himself, not to dominate the feminine, but to stand beside it as equal force. Because if both continue to sleep, numb, reactive, blind, the pendulum will swing again. And the next collapse won't be symbolic. It will be total. In the end, you have two choices. Wake up and carry your weight, or sink and curse the world for drowning you.